It's Tuesday, August 18. Good afternoon. I'm Herman Green with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. It's nomination day, and candidates across the island have been registering their intention for the September 3 polls. PNP President Dr. Peter Phillips was this morning nominated to contest the East Central St. Andrews seat. Phillips has been the Member of Parliament for that constituency for some 26 years. But what are his plans? Our reporter Janella Precious caught up with Dr. Phillips earlier.
Thank you so much. Well, we are awaiting the arrival of the Jamaica Labour Party candidate for East Central St. Andrew, Jodianne Myrie. Now, Miss Myrie will be facing off against the incumbent for this constituency, Dr. Peter Phillips. Now, Dr. Phillips has been the MP for this constituency since 1994, and this time around, he is also seeking a mandate from the Jamaican people to become the 10th Prime Minister of Jamaica. Now, he was nominated sometime after 10 o'clock.
I think the election hinges on many things, but there's no doubt that the COVID crisis is going to affect the elections. It is going to have an effect on people's willingness to turn out. It is certainly going to have an effect on the way campaigning is done. And so it is a factor. But there are other factors as well. The lack of economic growth and the economic crisis that has been further worsened because of the handling of the coronavirus issue.
There is a traffic gridlock currently on Malines Road as the nomination, the activities continue to get underway. And of course, we will have more on the happenings here in Primetime News at 7. Until then, it's over to you.
All right, thank you, Janella Precious. All right, we are trying to get word from the Prime Minister Andrew Holness, who is supposed to be nominated in his constituency about 12:30 today. We have our reporter Andrea Chisholm is there, and she'll be giving us the latest update as soon as possible. But in the meantime, we're now joined by Dwayne Anderson, who is in Clarendon Southeastern, where tensions are high following the killing of a political operative last night. Dwayne, what can you tell us? Dwayne, are you hearing us?
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, Dwayne, what can you tell us? What's happening in that constituency?
Hey, Herman, thank you so much. Well, I'm presently on the grounds of the Very Technical High School here in Southeast Clarendon. But I will start this particular report about happenings further south in the parish in Rocky Point Settlement, where a brutal murder took place after 10 last night. The victim was a political operative linked to the JLP. He has been identified as 36-year-old Paul Henry. Mr. Henry was shot in the head at his gate. Now, fingers have been pointed, Herman, so we have responsibly contacted the police on this particular matter. My police source I spoke to said so far it is very early. So they cannot say if the killing was politically linked. They say at this stage they are exploring 3 variables in the murder. They did not say what those variables are. Now, Mr. Henry was a polling division captain for the JLP. And so far, no suspects have been named in this murder. Now, residents, relatives, and indeed the political directorate in the area are pointing fingers. Mr. Charles, who's running for the JLP in the area, in an interview with me a short while ago, said that he was very upset and he rebuked any form of political intimidation. He says criminals will not decide this election in Southeast Clarendon. And he said he was one of the last persons to see Mr. Henry alive. And he was only earlier putting up some political big words for him, etc. Now, I will have a lot more of that particular story later on in Primetime News. But as it relates to nomination, the activities in the area, this Southeast Clarendon seat is what many political observers would call a battleground seat. Because the margin of victory here could well be in the hundreds if you believe what the camps, the PNP and JLP camps are saying. Now, Patricia Duncan Sutherland of the PNP will be nominated around 1 o'clock this afternoon. But earlier, JLP's Colonel Charles Jr. was nominated. He was brought into the area along a motorcade with his adoring supporters, as well as former Prime Minister Bruce Golding, who was brought in to help him shore up votes in the area. Now, Herman, as for those COVID-19 safety protocols, you can forget about it. Persons were partying as usual. There were some masks, not many, but people were there hanging out of cars, celebrating just the usual jubilation that you come to expect in an election cycle, Herman. So it's really just a party atmosphere. We'll observe what is happening when the PNP roll in, but until then, it's back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you very much. Our reporter Dwayne Anderson there in the Clarendon Southeastern constituency. Now, despite a change in the JLP candidate for the St. Ann Southeast constituency, the PNP's Lisa Hanna says she is confident she will retain the seat come September 3. The party has installed a third candidate in the space for a few weeks. Giovanni Dennis picks up that story.
Now, the scores of PNP supporters that you are now seeing behind me would have witnessed their three-term Member of Parliament, Lisa Hanna, being nominated, seeking a fourth term in this constituency. Now, I spoke to Ms. Hanna immediately after her nomination, and she outlined why she believes she deserves a fourth term in Southeast St. Ann.
The record is there to show it. We've done significant work in Southeast St. Ann as an opposition MP, because in my 3 terms, I've been an opposition MP twice. And regardless of that, we have done significant work. We have accessed over $320 million for road work. We've done water projects. We've built infrastructure. We've brought over $1.3 billion worth of business investments to Southeast.
Why you support Lisa Hanna?
Because she's a lady, and a full time for make the lady them lead the man them, because the man them not do the right proper leading. You see what I say?
Lisa Hanna my MP from me born and grow. She me know as MP, only she alone me seen in my area. And Lisa Hanna is a beauty queen. All she need to do is smile for me, and I hate that.
Now, twice the ruling Jamaica Labour Party has changed the standard bearer in this constituency. That did not escape the attention of Ms. Hanna, who took a jab at her political opponent.
They've changed candidates 3 times. It's just confusion and desperation. And it's a JLP's plan. They thought they had a plan against Lisa Hanna, but God is God. And they need to understand that that is not how you treat people, and that is not even how you treat your own party people.
Ms. Hanna also sought to explain the thinking behind the Sweeter with Lisa campaign slogan.
Lisa is a vibe. It's who we are in Southeast St. Ann. It is what we represent.
The JLP standard bearer for the constituency is expected to be nominated at 12:30 local time. Giovanni Dennis reporting from Southeast St. Ann for TVJ News.
Okay, now, leader of the Jamaica Labour Party and the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, is slated to be nominated at 12:30 for the St. Andrew West Central seat, where he has been the MP since 1997. Now, our reporter Andrea Chisholm is at the nomination center, the New Testament Church of God on Walton Park Road. She now joins us live for an update. Andrea.
Hi, Herman. I hope you're able to hear me properly, because it's party-like atmosphere here at the New Testament Church of God at 65 Walton Park Road, where Prime Minister Andrew Holness said to be nominated at 1 o'clock. However, what is happening now is that the PNP's candidate, Patrick Roberts, who lost by roughly 2,000 votes in the 2016 general election, his supporters are here. And as you can hear in the background, music is blaring, the latest dubs that have surfaced. Earlier we heard Sleep, and now we're hearing Sway from Elephant Man. They are outside. Some of them were dancing. There is no physical distancing being observed. However, for the most part, I am seeing the PNP supporters wearing their masks. When Mr. Roberts arrived a few minutes ago, he entered the compound with his representatives, and he made his way to the nomination center. We are being told that we are not allowed to come inside the center. The supporters are not allowed onto the compound. However, they are outside on the road doing their thing. So for now, Herman, we're monitoring what's happening here. As we said, the Prime Minister is scheduled to arrive at 1 o'clock, and the PNP candidate, Patrick Roberts, is being nominated as we speak. But we're unable to witness the nomination proceedings because we're not allowed inside the center.
Thank you very much. Our reporter Andrea Chisholm there from the St. Andrew West Central constituency, where we await the nomination of the leader of the Jamaica Labour Party, Andrew Holness. We now take a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. More news when we return. Welcome back, continuing the news. Tensions are high in Gregory Park in East Central St. Catherine, another marginal constituency, after a shop was destroyed by fire approximately 1 o'clock this morning. It's understood that the fire brigade was able to extinguish the blaze before it spread to other houses. JLP candidate for the constituency, Alanda Terrelong, says party supporters told him about the incident in the wee hours this morning.
You know, it's so unfortunate because when you look at the structure down here, all right, I mean, the fire could have swiftly spread across, destroying multiple homes from multiple families. If they were sleeping, the kids in the homes could have died as well. Luckily, the family was awake and they were able to stop the fire from reaching to the home, but their shop, their business place, completely destroyed. Every single thing destroyed. You know, I mean, what are we doing? This is 2020. We have moved beyond that kind of garrison politics, that kind of victimization. This is Jamaica. This is a democratic country. Listen, one party can't work, you know. People must be able to exercise their political will freely.
Now, Mr. Terrelong described the incident as an act of intimidation.
This is a clear and unprovoked act of intimidation. This is barbaric, it is intimidatory, and it is aimed at having a particular result, and we will not back down, we will not stand down, we will not be intimidated. We will continue with our peaceful campaign, and I'm going to implore all my supporters, all our supporters, to refrain from any such act.
In the meantime, PNP candidate for the East Central St. Catherine constituency, Raymond Price, says the incident is not politically driven and has distanced his supporters from the incident.
When I spoke to Deputy Superintendent Nicholson, he indicated to me that there was a single report of a fire which affected a structure from which a shop was operated.
Now, Robert Montague and Andrew Wheatley, Dr. Andrew Wheatley, the incumbent members of Parliament for St. Mary Western and St. Catherine South Central, were not present for their nominations this morning. They were nominated by senior members of their campaign team after going into self-isolation. The Jamaica Labour Party says Mr. Montague and Dr. Wheatley were present at an event some 10 days ago attended by Port Maria Mayor Richard Creary. Mr. Creary has tested positive for COVID-19. JLP Public Relations Committee Chairman Matthew Samuda says neither men spent time in the company of Mr. Creary at the event. He says neither of them has symptoms, but the decision to self-isolate is out of an abundance of caution.
They would have been exposed to Mayor Richard Creary, so though based on their interactions they don't have deep concern, out of an abundance of caution and for the protection of their own constituents, they've opted to self-isolate until COVID results come back.
Now, the JLP says Mr. Montague is awaiting the results of his test and Dr. Wheatley is awaiting the health authorities' guidance for his test to be conducted. And Councillor for the Caron Hall Division in St. Mary, Doreen Hutchinson, presented documentation for Robert Montague to be nominated in the St. Mary Western constituency. Mr. Montague is in isolation awaiting results of a COVID-19 test. Councillor Hutchinson registered the nomination in his absence at 10 this morning at the Gale Courthouse.
The campaign is going on. All our meetings are going on. Our trainings are going on because we know we are a winning team. We must win. He has been duly nominated by me, Doreen Hutchinson, Senior Councillor, and also his campaign manager. And of course, we are doing the safest thing by allowing him to be isolated at this time because we want our country to be COVID-free.
Analysts say People's National Party candidates in marginal seats could become casualties of PNP President Dr. Peter Phillips' low performance rating. The party president received a negative performance rating from 45.9% of respondents to the latest RGR Gleaner Don Anderson poll, while only 16.1% gave him a positive score. 38% said his performance was average. Attorney and political analyst Clyde Williams says this means candidates in marginal seats cannot depend on the appeal of their leader to help sway voters.
That's a major concern for marginal seats. Usually the party leader helps the marginal candidate unless there's a swing. If there's a swing, they're in trouble either way. But there's no swing now in the country towards the PNP. So marginal candidates rely heavily on the coattails of the leader. But the leader is polling below the party. So those marginal candidates are in serious trouble right now in the party in terms of if they are MPs holding on to the seat or if they are challengers mounting a good challenge.
And Hotline host Clive Mullings has also agreed that candidates in marginal seats will not be able to depend on Dr. Phillips to give them a boost at the polls. He says despite a slight improvement in the performance ratings for the parliamentary opposition and the opposition leader, the PNP should be very concerned given the general election is a little over 2 weeks away. Mr. Mullins is doubtful the PNP will be able to turn things around in time.
Positive trend as to whether or not that would be sufficient to be the kind of, pardon expression, Philip, for the PNP. I have my doubts. What this is saying is that if there was a greater focus in terms of dealing with issues and also to do so in a very cohesive way and consistent way, they would be maybe further ahead. But what it does say is that there is some resonance with the population as to how much that change is going to affect them positively. I will have my doubts at this stage.
Now, as campaigning intensifies, the police have told campaign teams to desist from the practice of installing illegal lights on vehicles traveling in political motorcades. The police high command says placing colored flashing lights on vehicles constitutes a breach of the Road Traffic Act. The high command says the breach could allow criminals to deceive members of the public by impersonating the police, the Jamaica Fire Brigade, and ambulances. And news just in, TVJ videographer was detained a short while ago while covering the nomination day activities in South Central St. Catherine. His camera was also seized. The videographer had recorded the nomination of the PNP candidate, Kurt Matthews, at the Seventh-day Adventist Church on Old Harbour Road in Spanish Town. Shortly after, our cameraman came outside, the police held him and told him he committed a breach. He was subsequently detained and his camera seized. And that's the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Remember, join us at 7 for the prime time package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.